Good afternoon, everyone. So the topic for our day is uveitic cataract management. So uveitic cataract, we all know, is one of the most common complication of uveitis, and it is caused either by uncontrolled and sustained inflammation or by use of high dose and long duration of steroids. The moment a surgeon looks at a uveitic cataract, the first thing that comes to his mind is a surgically demanding procedure. But to a uveitic person, we think it is demanding not only in the intraoperative period, but also in the pre and postoperative period. So unless due diligence is given to control of inflammation in the preoperative period, even in a surgically good hands, your postoperative period is going to be very disastrous. So with this intro, we'll see how to navigate through these complexities by these steps. So step one is case selection. Then we have pre-op evaluation, pre-op medication, intra-op management, and post-op complication management. So as we said earlier, case selection, we have two categories of patients. Category one are patients who have visually significant cataract, but their inflammation is well under control. So we can expect a good visual potential in these patients. While in category two, these are patients who have cataract impairing posterior segment visualization, and there is a posterior segment pathology. So because of the cataract, you don't know what's happening in the posterior segment, and we have to operate on this patient to decide what is your further course of treatment for this patient. And there are few factors which will help us to predict the visual outcome in our patients. Few uveitic diagnoses have good prognosis. As sir said earlier, Fuchs uveitis and leptouveitis, you usually have a good prognosis after their cataract surgery. And patients who have good response to the standard care of treatment and the patients with good clinical course throughout the disease have a good visual outcome. And patients where we have 3 months of quiescence, that's why it's a thumb rule always, you have 3 months of quiescence before advising cataract surgery in your uveitic patients. And always look for concomitant ocular pathologies like optic nerve involvement and macular involvement. So you will predict what is going to happen and tell the patient that there may be suboptimal visual recovery before advising cataract surgery. So as said earlier, the management is going to be different in different types of uveitis. For example, we'll start with Fuchs uveitis. This is a disease where your post-operative outcome is usually very good. Like even the 3 months of quiescence is not needed in these patients, and you can operate under steroid cover. And as again stated, the most common complication is progressive vitreous opacification. In few patients, it may be so dense that, or patients are so dense that you have to go for a PPV, pars plana vitrectomy. And usually post-operative period, you can get a crystal clear cornea and a IOL. Fine. But in diagonally opposite spectrum, you have juvenile idiopathic arthritis. These are children who present to us very late because of white eye uveitis. So when they present to us, they have complications like cataract and band-shaped keratopathy. And you should always balance between waiting for a zero cell tolerance and their amblyogenic age. So you can't keep waiting for getting a zero cell tolerance. You have to go in and operate at some point of time. And even down the spectrum, you have Behçet's uveitis. These patients, even after 6 months of quiescence and well-controlled inflammation, the post-op recovery may be poor because they have associated optic nerve involvement and temporal pallor. So other few diseases, weak age, usually if you have a good control in the preoperative period, the postoperative period is good. But in SO, we have seen that there may be uncontrolled inflammation even after a good inflammatory control in the preoperative period. In VKH and SO, if you feel that their visual improvement is not up to the mark post-operatively, you are not finding clinically anything, but your vision is not improving, always do a OCT. There may be pigmentary disturbances at macula, and maybe you are missing a CME in these patients. So whenever in doubt, you do a OCT and look for CME and treat it. Toxo, few studies have stated that there may be reactivation of toxo post-cataract surgery, but we have had not such experiences in our department. So we all know as a routine, we do A scan and few other investigations for any pre-op like cataract evaluation. But UVA have special, like UVA needs special investigation in certain special situations. For example, you have had a patient who had secondary angle closure and you have gone ahead and done a YAG PA. So if you do a UBM, you will know the state of the zonules before you enter, because already you have a posterior Seine. So you won't know whether there is phacodonosis or whether there is a zonular weakness. So if you do a UBM, you will know what will be the state of your zonules before you enter the eye. Again, another example is like your patient may have had a CME or an inflammatory CNVM. You would have gone ahead and given an intravitreal injection, and you are expecting a lens touch. So if you do a UBM and look at the posterior capsule, again, you know what you have to predict when you go inside the eye. So do all the investigations to predict and avoid intraoperative surprises for these patients. Ultrasound will help to see the posterior segment when your cataract is very dense, and OCT will help us to look at the macula and epiretinal membrane to predict what's the visual recovery postoperatively. Complicating features, look for those features before advising cataract surgery so you can manage them effectively when you are entering the eye. So look for scleral and corneal thinning so that you can plan a clear cornea. Like if it is a scleral thinning, you can plan a clear corneal phaco. You will not like go for a SICS even when it is a dense cataract. Look for corneal opacities, shallow anterior chamber, posterior Seine, and a fibrotic capsule, and plan your management before you advise cataract surgery. Coming to the pre-op medication, it's a very important part because you have to adjust your steroids before you advise cataract surgery in these patients. If it is a non-infectious uveitis and the patient is on immunosuppressive, continue it in the same dose if the inflammation is well under control. The dose and the duration of the steroid will depend upon the anatomical location and the course of the disease of the patient. And if needed, you can add intraop steroids like subconjunctival or intravitreal steroid, depending upon the amount of tissue handling that has happened intraoperatively. And in non-infectious uveitis, for an example, you have to start antiviral treatment even 3 weeks before surgery and continue it postoperatively. And main thing is counsel the patient. You would have controlled the inflammation, you would have gone ahead and done a beautiful surgery, but you haven't counseled well, then postoperatively, like you won't get a happy face. Explain to them that surgery may be prolonged because of posterior Seine and other complications. Explain to them that there may be suboptimal visual recovery or a delay in visual recovery. And one more thing you have to explain in detail is the surgery is for cataract and it is not the management of uveitis. The general thing patient thinks is once the surgery is over, they are free of uveitis. No, tell them in detail that it's for cataract and they have to continue their uveitic medications postoperatively. And last but not least, patients with Fuchs uveitis, tell them placing a monofocal IOL will cause loss of accommodation. Like, no, they don't want to get it as a surprise postoperatively. If they are not going to see their cell phones clearly, they are not going to be happy with you, even if you give a 6/6 vision for them. So coming to the intra part, it's the pupillary management, which is the main difference in the uveitic cataract surgery. So most of our patients have posterior Seine and hence a small pupil. We will look at few methods as to how to enlarge your pupil. So usually the Seine is broken by introducing a cyclospatula in a quadrant, in a diagonally opposite quadrant, and you break the adhesions. And then you can go with stretch pupilloplasty. You can use 2 Hoagland's hook and manually separate the iris in the horizontal and vertical meridian 180° apart. But our uveitic Seine irises are thin and atrophic. So if you go for stretch pupilloplasty, it may cause iris rip and bleeding. So it is always better to go for self-retaining iris hooks. So here we introduce iris hooks through sub 1 millimeter paracentesis wounds. Usually it is introduced in a diamond pattern and we use 4 iris hooks. And if needed, one more iris hook can be introduced through the main tunnel to prevent iris tissue prolapse throughout the surgery. So you can see that your iris is intact and not ripped apart because of your stretch pupilloplasty. And recently people have started using iris expanders. The thing is, it's made of silicone and hence causes less inflammation and less irritation to the iris. And again, it stretches in a circular manner. So it causes less stress to the iris and it protects the iris margin from your phacoprobe throughout the surgery. The next important step to keep in mind is while making a capsular rhexis, try to make a large rhexis because these patients are more prone for capsular phimosis. So unless your rhexis is big enough, these patients can go for capsular phimosis and cocooning of IOL. IOL type hydrophobic acrylic IOLs are found to be biocompatible because the chance of post-op inflammation and PCO formation is less. Again, no fancy IOLs, no premium IOLs, or no multifocal IOLs in these patients because these patients are more like prone for recurrent uveitis, and the chance of glare and need for YACAP is going to be very high in these patients. And always place the IOL, whether it's a single piece or a 3-piece, in the bag. Like always try to place it in the back, because leaving even a 3-piece IOL in the sulcus, the haptic is going to irritate the iris and further worsen the inflammation in all these patients. Post-op complications, it may be either an early complication or a late complication. Mainly, it is caused by excessive post-operative inflammation. It may cause either posterior synechiae or a IOL capture. So you treat them with adequate steroid drops and dilatation of the pupil. Cystoid macular edema is again a common complication. You can treat it with difluprednate and NSAIDs. If it is not improving, you can go ahead with either intravitreal injections or periocular steroids. Again, these patients may develop raised IOP or hypotony. Late complications, these patients are prone for PCO, but wait for 6 months before advising ND-YACAP in these patients. Again, capsular phimosis, you can avoid it if you have done a really large rhexis. But if there is cocooning, then you have to go and give relaxing radial incisions in these patients. My take-home message is period of documented quiescence. The 3 months of quiescence is a mandate, because patients may keep nagging you, I want to have an improvement in vision and all those things, but always go for 3 months of quiescence and optimize immunosuppression in the perioperative period. Don't go for topical anesthesia, because the surprises during the surgery is high in uveitic patients, and in the bag monofocal IOL is the thumb rule in these patients. Expect the unexpected, because surgery is not end of the story here, and always look for post-op complications proactively and treat them to optimize the visual outcome. Thank you.